Hey folks, Papa Boris here with some more Through the Ages. This was the other four-player game from Stage 3, lower bracket of the 2026 Through the Ages World Championship. The two four-player games finished really close to each other, so this one was going parallel to the other. I just mentioned that because sometimes if something happens in one game, that might influence your decision of which player to affect in the other game, but there was really none of that going on with these two four-player games. Caumont was first and chose the Acropolis, which is totally fine. I would have actually picked Confucius here myself because I really like Confucius, not necessarily saying that's correct. I think with this board, probably the other people would take the three wonders that are available. The other two wonders are Hanging Gardens and Library of Alexandria, and there's a chance that Library doesn't show up and you're stuck with trash or no wonder at all. So I can see why you might want to take the wonder that is available or a wonder that's available. I mean, any of the three are fine, just to make sure you're not dicking around and ending up without a wonder, but I really like Confucius. However, nothing wrong with grabbing the Acropolis, and I again was a recipient of some good luck in the draft due to choices by my preceding opponent, because now with him taking the Acropolis, I get to grab Confucius and a wonder, and again I take the Colosseum because Confucius is giving me science. I don't want more science. I'd rather, if I'm getting a happy face either way, get a military action and some discounts, and have one fewer stage to build. How you doing here? Grab Stonehenge and Urban Growth. Interesting, he's avoiding Sun Tzu. I like Sun Tzu. I haven't always, but I've definitely started enjoying this more. You can just sometimes, okay, it doesn't do much, but then other times you get to like rip off a good tactic, switch to Jan von Shish Kebab or something and just blow somebody up. In this particular case, there is no Jan, but you can get a good tactic for Genghis. So there is some consideration there. On the other hand, there's not a whole lot of leaders here that really care about cards. So something like Jan, something like Christopher Columbus for finding a colony, things like that would make you more inclined to take Sun Tzu. And here with just, I guess, the Genghis being the only major one that cares about drawing a certain number of military cards for some reason, I can see why you'd want to try to avoid that leader. So he takes a free rock, doesn't want Moses, which is widely regarded as a not very good leader, although I'm fine with it. I'm fine with Moses. Free food is free food, and I'll take anything. Rocks, science, food, obviously food's the least valuable, but I would still take it in some cases. So now Antoine's up. Antoine does take Sun Tzu and a free rock. Note, again, the kind of psychology of it. Taking Moses and a free rock is just the same. Just because it's coming off the one row doesn't mean you're getting any less value. You're getting two cards either way, but I also would pick Sun Tzu. I'm just mentioning this because if Sun Tzu had been here, I think you would take Sun Tzu from here, Urban Growth from here, and then, you still got your full value. I guess you also could take a rich land in that case and get your rock immediately, but Urban Growth lets you choose between a rock or a science, so it's all fine here in the draft, nothing crazy going on. And so we flip over the deck. Caumont does, notice have the option of library here, so if he had taken Confucius, then here his turn could have been play Confucius, take library, build mine, and it would have been fine. He grabs Cleopatra, which is also totally fine. I will note Hammurabi is here. You could take Hammurabi. His extra action pays back the first turn extra action cost you took to get him. And he's a great leader. I think that is probably, in a lot of strong players' eyes, a better pick here than Cleopatra. A lot of people do not like Cleopatra at the higher level. I don't have a problem with her. I like her. I like getting the free rocks, even if they are a bit conditional, so this is fine. But you are leaving Hammurabi for another player, which is potentially a consideration against doing this. We know from the other game, Caumont is allergic to the third mine, so absolutely not shocking at all here that he would use Cleopatra to build a lab instead of building a mine. He builds population, which is, to be fair, a totally fine opening sequence, but I was just kind of tickled by it looking back on it, because man, does this guy love 2 mines and hate 3 mines. On my turn, I play Confucius. I'm a little sad I don't get to play with Library, but it's, again, Library is mostly science, and I like not having science from my wonder and getting a different benefit since I am Confucius. Then I build mine, raise population, and I take the free food. I've been experimenting with taking stockpile, like, oh, maybe you get the doldrums on turn 2 and you get an extra rock this way, but you know what? It's just sometimes a good card comes up and you pay 2 actions to take it, and it's like, whatever. Let's just not dick around in the opening. Let's just take the free food and end the god darn turn. How you doing is up. He gets Hammurabi. But you might remember in the other 4-player game, he passed on Hammurabi to take Homer. So he seems to have some sort of allergic reaction to having more actions in a game where more actions lets you do more things and is better. He spends 2 actions in Engineering Genius and curiously does not take a leader at all. I am going to call this a mistake. I think that you just need to take Hammurabi here. I mean, why would you not? Sun Tzu is behind you in the turn order, so that worry is mitigated by the turn order, and it's an extra action. You have a wonder that takes one more action than usual to build. Leaders are just generally a good thing to have, and they give value. I mean, take Aristotle for God's sake. But taking no leader here at all, I think, is just a mistake. It's also worth noting that Engineering Genius, coming from the second row, is just 2 actions for 2 rocks. So although this is a spicy card and everybody loves it, you are just getting 1 rock per action. So it's not actually that amazing. I think that Hughdun messed up the opening here. So then we get over to Antoine. Antoine, I don't know if he was sad, like, oh god, I could have had Hammurabi if I hadn't taken Sun Tzu, but in the draft there wasn't much else for him to do. He plays his leader, builds a lab with urban growth, and raises population, grabs rich land. Normally I'd be like, well, you know, Sun Tzu, more of a military bend, you might want to go on low science for a while, maybe use urban growth for the rock rather than for the science, but since there is a rich land for your extra leftover action here, it does make sense to build a lab here, and then get this as a free rock. If you had built the mine, then this wouldn't actually be a free rock, at least not immediately. That being said, I would have definitely done a different turn here because Antoine never drafted a wonder, and libraries here, and it's a great wonder, so I don't know why he didn't take it. So this line makes sense if you're going for a no age A wonder strat. Maybe he's dicking around waiting for the university. That is something I've experimented with, like skipping the age A when you see an age 1 wonder coming up. I'm generally not a fan of this type of play anymore just because it hasn't worked out for me. But okay, Antoine has about the same level of experience as I do, I believe, if I remember the profiles correctly. So he's, you know, in experimental phase, and that's totally fine. But here what I would have done is I just would have built the mine, taken the library, played the leader, raised population. And I wouldn't have taken any yellow card at all. Then the next turn I would have had my urban growth to build the lab with. All right, so we're over to Como. Como builds a stage of the Acropolis, grabs the swordsman, and takes frugality, and yeah, so he's not building that third mine. Now, I will mention that yes, if you build a mine, you're not using Cleopatra's, you're not using Cleopatra's power, but what does Cleopatra's power do? It gives you a rock. What does building a mine do? It gives you a rock. I mean, build your third mine, for God's sakes! Just build it! Just build the damn thing! Anyways, that's that turn. Over to me. I play my aggression as a Confucius card because I don't want to put this in since I have absolutely no assurance that I'm not going to be the weakest player. So we all get some free food. I build a lab, grab masonry, and raise population. So I don't necessarily like to go into consumption on the second turn, but this is a tough situation. There just wasn't anything else to do. The top couple of cards were things I couldn't take a wonder. I don't want to commit to Leo, who is often not a great leader and immediately doesn't actually do anything. I decided to take masonry because, yeah, it's 2 actions, but you have to remember, you can't just like look at actions in a vacuum. You can't just be like, oh, this is 2 actions, so that's not good, or have rigid thinking like masonry's good, but it's not worth 2 actions. Like, yes, you could say that in general masonry is not worth 2 actions, but I have Confucius, I have extra science to burn, I could spend it on masonry. Also, what I'm getting with those 2 actions isn't anything great. There's nothing else really for me to do here. So it's 2 low value actions, and of the low value things that I could get, I think masonry had the highest value here. So looking back on this game, I definitely stand by this turn. It's going to save me an action later building my wonder. It's also going to save me rocks on every single urban building I build, basically. So I'm happy with it. And just a note, I didn't play the frugality because I don't want to have a blue token sitting here. I'll do the frugality next time, potentially, but I think if you're not, like, if you're not stopping yourself from getting a worker next time, there's actually no point in getting this card out of your hand. How You Doing is up, plays an event. We get a free temple, so I am kind of glad I was kind of forced by the second turn doldrums to make a worker, because in this particular case it pays off. He gets his free temple, puts on a fighting band, raises population, builds a second lab, builds a stage of Stonehenge, and then just plays Engineering Genius. So it was a really efficient, clean turn here. Didn't waste any actions on the second turn. Everything's going good here. Playing the fighting band, that I question, because he's not using it right now. And it doesn't really matter if he does it now or next turn. And this lets potentially all of your opponents copy it a turn sooner, including Sun Tzu, who might really want a tactic. So I think that playing this kind of doesn't make any sense. You might as well just draw the extra card this turn and then sacrifice a draw on the next turn. But that's a minor point. We go over now to Antoine. Antoine plays an event. we get a free population, so I get really paid off. It ends up being very lucky here that I raised population early. Not only did it give me a free temple, but also when the population increase comes, it comes out of the more expensive bank. It always feels bad to have it come out of the 2. He does go for the university, which is maybe why he passed on the library. He then builds his 3rd mine, grabs Leo and the printing press. Now, I am not a fan of this. Yes, Leo and printing press is good, but this would have been a lot better if he hadn't built a 2nd lab. Now, I'm not saying it was wrong of him to build the 2nd lab. With the way the early game panned out, that, made sense. But with a worker already committed to a lab, you might struggle to have enough workers to get that extra worker on the printing press. So I'm not a huge fan of this. On the other hand, you might say, well, Boris, what was he supposed to do instead? Well, take Swordsman. I mean, it's a fine technology. Just take the good card. Maybe Genghis will wheel for you. Who knows? And then you can go Swordsman Genghis stuff. You'll probably find a tactic from Sun Tzu for Genghis, probably. So that's what I would have preferred, though this is not, anything absolutely horrible. And we go over to Comont. Comont plays an event, and we get this. It's starting to become a little bit of a deep chain of events here, so let's take a look at what's going on. So, hang on, let me actually click ahead. Okay. So we do this. Okay, let's take a look at what happened here. So he got a free temple. He got a free population increase. Extra action with a discount. He built his 3rd mine. Woo! He did it, everybody. Comont built his 3rd mine before age 2. I'm wiping a tear from my eye as I speak. I'm so proud of this man. He accomplished something I never thought he could do. He finally kicked his substance abuse problem and built that 3rd mine. All right, now what are we doing here? He's finishing the Acropolis, getting a population, and putting St. Peter's under construction. Now, I'm not a fan of this. Yes, you are Cleopatra, and yes, building another wonder lets you use your Cleopatra power more, but this particular wonder is just culture, and it solves all your happy face issues for the rest of the game, and it is extra good since we got a free temple from the events. So all of that is true, but at the end of the day, happy faces are not the most important resource early on. They don't help you snowball the way that, developing your rock science and food does, or even your military in some cases, and culture, again, doesn't help you with your economy in the early game. So I'm not a fan of undertaking this project when you're still on 3 mines, even with Cleopatra. Though, to be fair, Cleopatra does make this a more reasonable choice. There were other things that you could do here. You could take irrigation, you could take Genghis if you have a good tactic, you could raise your population and grab warfare or cultural heritage. I mean, you could do any number of things other than spending 2 actions putting this wonder under construction that who knows when you're going to finish it. So I'm not a fan of that, but that's Comont's turn, and it's over to me. I play a safe event. We get a free warrior, which I actually do get to use. It ends up being really nice for me with these AJ events. So first I get a free temple, then I raise population for free, I use my free action to develop masonry with a science discount, and then because of this free population, I get to get a free warrior even though I already got a free temple. So the events worked out super nicely. The question is what to do on my turn. I haven't gotten a tactic with horses, so I don't want to commit to Genghis Khan. Irrigation is maddeningly 1 space up in the 2 row. So what I decided to do is I decided to get to work on the Colosseum. There's only 1 action because I got the masonry. I grabbed the Code of Laws for 2 actions. Next turn I'll be able to research it, so this seems like a good time to do it. And then I take the swords. I could have raised population here. There is a chance my opponent put rats in and I'm going to really regret losing this food and having this frugality delayed even further, but I thought, okay, let's not go super crazy, on low strength. Let's grab the swords. There's a fighting band that will be available someday. Let's just, make that happen. I draw my own fighting band. How you doing's up? Grabs cartography, researches it, takes iron, and passes the turn. Oh, he builds a warrior to get out of corruption, then passes the turn. It's hard to say if this is a good turn or not because cartography, he doesn't have that many events. I don't know if this is a colony. If it's like vast territory, then sure, makes sense to grab cartography. But this early in the game, I don't think this is really doing enough to justify the action cost. The science cost, okay, you have Stonehenge, that's fine, but I mean, we still are working out a base economy here. So I would have preferred, instead of taking and researching cartography, to just research the iron that you took and upgrade a mine and get your rocks started. It's also worth noting that he still doesn't have a leader. He's never had a leader this whole game. So I don't know if he has any horse tactics. He might not. Genghis Khan is a little weird here without a horse tactic, but it would be giving him 3 culture per turn, plus if he drew a horse tactic or somebody else played one, then you could copy it. So that's a consideration as well, and I would have preferred that over cartography, though not over upgrading the iron. Antoine plays an event. It's free stuff. which is good for him because he's trying to get this expensive wonder built. He has the Phalanx, which, okay, it's Sun Tzu, so it cannot be copied yet, but that would have been a point in favor of anyone who took Genghis Khan. It also would have been a point in favor of Antoine himself if he had not committed to a leader and been able to take Genghis Khan right now. He researches the printing press, raises population, and makes a library. Now, it's worth noting he's putting himself in a bit of a pickle here because when Age 1 ends, these workers disappear. And even if he got one of them out, he's going to have revolt issues unless he does something about his happy faces. So it's going to be really difficult getting that horse for the Phalanx. So you can see why it really matters. That extra worker in the lab might need to be blown up in order to avoid revolt or in order to actually have a worker for a horse. Even with this worker here, if you put this worker on a horse, you have revolt. So he's operating at a severe worker deficiency, and getting Leonardo online is not without its costs. That being said, he does have 4 signs per turn now, which is very early for that, and he grabs the reserves because there's nothing much better to do. You could take irrigation, I suppose, and then he passes the turn. All right, we got an event from Comont. It's Foray, which I was very sad to see because Comont just breaks the tie for the other of the 2 strong players. How You Doing, of course, is the other winner. So Comont grabs Engineering Genius to help him build St. Peter's. He grabs Nostradamus, who's just a generally strong leader, replaces Cleopatra, raises population twice, and then he has to build a warrior to get out of corruption. But next turn, with the Engineering Genius, he will be able to finish the St. Peter's Basilica. Just personally, I hate having that kind of situation in Age 1 where I'm like, next turn I have to finish building this wonder, and this wonder doesn't really do anything. In the moment, happy faces don't give me an extra worker, and culture, it's good to get culture, but I just hate having to commit so much of an early turn just to culture. I play an event. We get some free food. It's getting to be a lot with these resources. I finish the Colosseum. I research the Code of Laws, obviously. I grab this. It's not my favorite thing, but I didn't want to pay 2 actions for alchemy here. Maybe I should have. I raise population 2 times. Notice 1 time wasn't enough to avoid corruption. So if I had taken the alchemy, I would have had to spend 2 rocks on a warrior to get out of corruption. I didn't really want to do that. I slap down my fighting band, so I'm at least ahead of 1 person on tie breaks, or without relying on tie breaks, and then I pass the turn. How You Doing researches iron now, upgrades a mine, raises population, upgrades another mine. Now you might say, well, why didn't you upgrade your 3rd mine instead of raising your population? Well, it's because he wanted another fighting band. It's interesting. He is now threatening 2 of his 3 opponents with some serious pressure. So is that worth slowing down your economic development? I personally think not. But I have to confess, I am biased. I generally don't like building as many warriors as my opponents seem to like building. So that could be a playstyle bias on my end. All right, so now Antoine's got to be a little bit scared of what this guy is capable of. Antoine, on his turn, grabs the knights, raises population, researches the knights, and makes the knight. So he devotes his entire turn to getting up to be the strength leader and, of course, getting out of harm's way. I am now sad because now I am definitely, by a significant margin with Nostradamus here, the weakest player. But that was his whole turn. Notice, because of this reserves grab, he's in a pretty decent position here. With 8 rocks plus 2 is 10. He can actually spend his whole turn and build the university next time. And notice, that I don't mind. I don't mind being like, well, next turn I have to build the university because that's giving me science, as opposed to like St. Peter's, which is giving me, in the short term, nothing useful. All right, so Comont plays consistently. He finishes St. Peter's here, getting up a nice culture lead, drops a legion that I think he drew last turn. I don't know, remember if he had any military actions left over to play it and didn't, but now he gets it, so he's actually fighting for strength leader here. Grabs the alchemy that was left for him, builds another warrior, because that's the thing everybody loves doing, and then he passes the turn. I actually don't know what that warrior does, because at 6 versus 7, he's still not the strongest, and with 6, he was still not the weakest, so I don't know what this extra warrior does, but okay, that's what he does, so it's over to me. I play an event. We get my Confucius card that I played earlier. And now what to do? Well, I got a little lucky here. This alchemy just kind of landed in my lap. I didn't take one earlier, but now it is here. So I have that opportunity. But there is a strength issue, so I have to make a concession. I research the swordsman. I just build one, upgrade another one, and upgrade a third. I'm just going for the full complement of swordsman here, so that at least I'm sometimes on tie breaks beating Hugh So Hugh invested a lot, slowed down his economy to like not make iron and instead make an extra warrior. And yes, it caused a reaction from his opponents, but in the end, he's not actually going to do any aggressions on anybody. And in fact, when it's not his turn, he is the weakest player. So now what to do with my actual actions? Well, let's grab the iron because I can. Let's grab the rich land because I can. Let's grab Michelangelo. So, oh yeah, I don't actually take iron here, alchemy here. Well, I don't know about that. Alchemy, there was another copy in the deck. I am Confucius. I don't know if Michelangelo's worth passing on alchemy, though. I just like Michelangelo a lot, and I thought, okay, I got iron here. With Confucius, I can do iron next turn. If I get the iron mines up and running quickly, then, you know, Iron Michelangelo is like one of my favorite things to have coming out of Age 1. That's a playstyle bias. It's not always a great thing to go for, and I've definitely lost some painful games trying to make it work. So I do want to offer that as a concession. But that's a playstyle thing. I think probably the correct thing is to grab Alchemy here. The one thing is that then you have Iron, Alchemy, and Irrigation, all the Age 1 economies, and then you're going to, you know, kind of run out of steam. But you could just say, well, the Irrigation, whatever, just it rots in the hand, you get the Iron and the Alchemy down, and you wait for selective breeding. There are 3 copies of that in a 4-player game. So I think maybe that is still probably better than taking Michelangelo here, because it's going to be a while before I can get the Irons online. Next turn, even with Rich Land, I can only upgrade 1 Iron Mine, not 2, unless the deck helps me with some free rocks. So it's tricky. It's tricky to say that this is actually worthwhile. All right, how you doing's up. I hold my breath because I am the weakest on his turn, but he doesn't have an event to play. He finishes Stonehenge, grabs the Irrigation, finishes his iron upgrades, and then passes the turn. He also lets the Alchemy go. Antoine plays an event. We get the Raiders, and unfortunately, I and Hudun are the weakest because of Commons Nostradamus, which sucks. We're going to have to lose some stuff. He plays the reserves and builds the university. It's what I would do. I think you just got to get that science online, and passes the turn. Comment raises population, so he gets out of the second bank, which is nice for him. He puts the Himeji Castle under construction and passes the turn. That took 3 actions to do, and you can probably guess what I'm going to say about that. I don't like it. You're on 3 rocks. Your leader's not giving you rocks. It's a wonder. Yes, 2 strength is nice. Yes, in the late game, that sacrificing potential makes you really safe, but you got alchemy here. Before the rock production, he could have upgraded a lab, so, you know, he could do something like raise population, research alchemy, upgrade a lab, and then take a card like warfare or patriotism, or even drama if you feel like getting ready for Bach and Shakespeare. I would rather have done any of those things over the castle. In fact, I would have taken like monarchy and just gotten a government down to fix my action somewhat over taking this castle. So on my turn, I play an event. It's Knowledge of the Ancients, which does not sadly give a rock because it's not under construction. I would have preferred the rock over the science here because, or 2 rocks technically, because that would have let me get an extra mine online. So here I raise population. Wait a minute, why do I have a rock? Oh no, I lost 2 rocks to the Raiders. I chose not to lose food so I can get this worker out. So I can also clear out my bank and be left with 0 tokens on food. But I lost 2 rocks to the Raiders, so it kind of works out weird. I research iron and I'd upgrade a mine with rich land. I was only going to be able to upgrade 1 mine anyway, but of course if I had 2 extra rocks, then next turn with 6 I could have finished upgrading them. So that Raiders really does hold me back. I then put down Confucius in case the age ends. I grab the breakthrough for some extra science because my science production is still low and I didn't take any alchemies because I'm apparently a Dumbo. But there's Michelangelo. I actually get the Legion so that even though it costs me 2 actions and only gives me 1 more strength, it means that I am stronger than Comment. In case there's a strength event, I may sometimes beat Antoine on ties, and I don't have to rely on tie breaks to not be the weakest versus Hudun. So I can breathe easy on Hudun's turn. Unless it's like Call to Arms, which affects the 2 weakest players, I am safe. The only other event that affects the 2 weakest players is Raiders, and that one already happened. How you doing does not have an event. Raises population, so also gets out of the second bank. He grabs the Code of Laws to use his science to fix his actions, researches irrigation, upgrades a farm, and passes the turn. Good clean turn here. Antoine plays an event. We get Pestilence, which hurts Antoine a bit because he doesn't have any free population. Everyone else is okay though. Hudun, I, and Comment all have a worker to lose, though that worker is then probably going to get sucked out by the end of the age because we don't have enough food to pull it out. So it's still annoying, but Antoine has definitely hit the hardest. He loses one of his labs, grabs iron, researches it, and upgrades the mine to start his rock production. All totally fine. He could have taken monarchy, but it is close to H2. He's got really good science production even after losing that lab. So he might just be thinking like, hey, let's just wait for an H2 government and not have to ever worry about actions. You could say a good action now is better than the best action later, so maybe it's worth it to take monarchy here. I have to be honest, I am really torn on this decision. monarchy near the end of age 1 when you have enough science for it. Sometimes you end up waiting and waiting for an age 2 government, and the value of the actions in the interim would have been worth the marginal improvement of getting an age 2 government. It's a tough call. So Comment is up. He takes the monarchy with his Acropolis for 1 action. He could have taken it last turn for 2 when he built the castle, but it wheeled to him. He researches it with a discount, researches alchemy, upgrades a lab, researches swordsman as well. He's got tons of science and starts upgrading some warriors into swords to become the full strongest without tie breaks. Maybe there's some strength-based events in here, and then he passes the turn. So I upgrade my second mine. Could have upgraded my third if I hadn't lost 2 rocks to raiders. And now alchemy has wheeled its way over to me yet again. And this time, my third opportunity, I take it. I cannot upgrade a lab, unfortunately. Even with masonry's discount, it still costs 2 rocks. So I take the urban growth to get a free upgrade next turn. I take the reserves, just because it's rocks and I have nothing else to do. And then I research it with breakthrough. Again, I am not opposed to researching a tech, even if you don't use it that turn. I know that next turn I'm going to be getting alchemy, so it's just using my actions efficiently. Plus, I was at my hand limit, so I couldn't take any more cards. So I pass the turn there, and it's over to Hugh Dune. Oh, I have the call to arms, so yes, I am safe as the second weakest player. I know for sure that nothing bad will happen to me. Hugh Dune has no event to play. He takes Machu Picchu, and you know what I'm going to say about that? I don't like it. Even though he already has Irrigation Iron online, it's the end of age 1. I mean, it's actually age 2 right now. And I just think this is really late for this Wonder. I'm also just not that impressed with this Wonder, so I don't like this. I would not have done this. I would have done, something else. Admittedly, there's nothing that great to do here, but you actually could just spend 3 actions to take Republic. And then next turn, revolt into it. You're on low science. This would fix your civil actions like crazy. Yes, it's kind of weird with Code of Laws. You have these civil actions and no military actions, but I would still do that over putting this Wonder under construction. Then Hugh Dune takes one of the weirdest turns you can imagine. Just stop for a second and think, what are your options? Think of, I don't know, 1, 2, or 3 things that you might choose to do with your civil actions. Don't think too hard. Just kind of shoot from the hip here. What would you do with 3 actions? Just shooting from the hip. I don't know, maybe build a couple stages of the Wonder, get that going. Maybe finish my last mine upgrade. Maybe grab a breakthrough because it's 2 science. Take a rich land for the other up farm upgrade. Yeah. Just these are some things I would consider doing. You know what I would not consider doing? Taking Joan of Arc for 3 actions. It's one of the most bizarre things. It's definitely the most bizarre move of this whole game. Not just because you're taking Joan of Arc for 3 actions and all your opponents have an age 1 leader, so she's guaranteed to wheel if you want her. And it's not just because she's not even that good here. It's because Hugh Dune did not take a leader all game. He aggressively, I would say, passed on an age 1 leader. Just aggressively chose not to take Hammurabi. He also aggressively didn't take any leaders during age 1, I would say, that were falling into his lap that would have been fine. And here, out of the blue, he spends 3 actions for Joan of Arc. Why? Why is 1 strength, 1 culture, and a military action and peeking at the event deck so valuable that you need her right now when she's guaranteed to wheel for you? I don't get it. I'm just been mystified. How you doing? You're a good, clean, solid player in a lot of cases, but this move made no sense to me, so I was really curious about it. If I could talk to one player from this game and ask them one question, it would be to Hugh Dune. Why did you spend 3 actions on Joan of Arc? There must be some reason, and I would be fascinated to know what that is. So Antoine plays an event. It's free science. Antoine does make the most of that, so it's a good turn for him. He takes the Republic that How You Doing left for him, researches it right now because he actually has just a butt-ass ton of science, and he's in a bit of a weird spot. This is what I was talking about with this revolt. Notice, even without this lab, to make a horse and a printing press, you're in revolt, and he's 1 food short of being able to fix it by raising his population, so he has to blow up his other lab, which obviously does not feel good. He didn't quite have enough actions, by the way, in case you're wondering. He could have taken theology, researched it, and upgraded it, but that would cost 4 actions, and he spent 4 actions to get the Republic online, so he's got 7. He's 1 action short. You might say, well, maybe you take the Republic, but then if you don't research it, you don't have enough actions to take and research theology. That would be your whole turn. So I don't mind him doing this. I think it's fine to get the Republic online sooner, but he just is a little bit unlucky that he couldn't quite get this. If the theology and bread and circuses would have been switched places, it would have been a whole different story. He could have kept his lab. As it is, he blows up a lab, upgrades a mine, upgrades the other mine, so he finishes fixing his rocks. And I'd say that, normally, of course, it's good to finish fixing your rocks, but there's some juicy stuff here. He could have taken a breakthrough in rich land or something like that, or instead of the last upgrade, just taken a breakthrough for some more science. It's worth considering. But in any case, he decides to finish up his civil action debt, get the rocks online as soon as possible, and pass the turn. Comment is up, plays an event. We get the Reign of Terror that I believe I put in eventually, and I was beating Hugh and Antoine on tie breaks, but it's nice that Hugh was just guaranteed to be hit by this. He now grabs Selective Breeding, which he does need the food. He upgrades his other lab, takes a rich land to make his Selective Breeding upgrade easier, and also takes the other rich land, which makes sense. He does have a lot of science and good science production, so even though Breakthrough is arguably the quote-unquote better card, it makes sense just to get 2 rocks here, because right now, in this particular situation, rocks are more valuable to him than science is. Alright, so it's my turn. I play an event. We get the border conflict, which doesn't affect me, so I don't care too much about it, but Hugh is getting a little bit beat up here with some of these events. And what is there for me to do? Well, I upgrade a lab, I upgrade a mine, I upgrade another lab. So I spend 60% of my turn just fixing my economy, and now there's things to do. Well, I could take the theology to get a solution for my happy faces, which I will need eventually, although I might as well just wait and get the better happy face upgrade from age 2, because there's a big difference between theology and organized religion. There is this breakthrough here, which is tempting. I'm 1 science short of getting monarchy down this turn, and I could take knights, but with the Colosseum, the age 2 horses cost the same amount of science to research as the age 1 knights, so it feels kind of bad to take the knights here. So there wasn't anything I was super excited about. What I decided to do here is take the knights and the breakthrough and just say screw it. At least this way I have access to all the age 2 technologies. I'm missing a little bit of value in terms of the strength compared to cavalrymen, and of course now age 2 tactics are going to be difficult because it feels bad to take riflemen and horses, but if I don't, then age 3 tactics are not going to work. So if I don't get a good H2 tactic, or if nobody plays one, which has absolutely happened in multiple games, then I'm going to be annoyed that I have these knights and I spent science researching them if I then have to take horses in the future. But that's what seemed like the least bad thing to me. I also am kind of just like waiting for an H2 government instead of taking this monarchy that's available, and I pass the turn. How you doing plays an event. We get barbarians, which does not hit Comment, so nothing happens. Hugh finishes Machu Picchu, plays Joan of Arc, which costs an action because he didn't have a leader, and actually that's the age 1 leader, so he could not have had a leader to play her at this point. And he builds a temple for an extra strength and some culture. I'm not really sure that he needs this. Notice he lost one of his farms for the Reign of Terror, but now he got an extra strength, so at least on his turn he is not the weakest player. Antoine's up, plays an event. We got a developed territory. I'm like, nope, you guys sacrifice your warriors for this. And Hugh actually wins it. He's last to go. So this is risky because now he's a little bit behind and any subsequent events are going to hit him. He's no longer beating Antoine on ties. He also gives up a defense card in case that matters later. Antoine has a lot of actions now. So he takes the team sports, researches it, builds one. He grabs journalism and he grabs urban growth. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of this turn for a few reasons. First of all, let me clear off this text. You don't need the happy faces right now from the team sports. This isn't urgent because this worker was unhappy. You could have just let it sit and be unhappy. Second of all, you have printing press, so also getting journalism is inefficient. You don't want to research printing press and journalism. Getting printing press and then like the multimedia in age 3, that's sort of okay because the printing press is sort of cheap, but journalism's not better enough over printing press that you want to invest the science and the actions to get it. I would have preferred just taking yellow cards here. Now he's a bit unlucky because there's no reserves. Reserves would have been good to get that food that he needs in order to get this workaround and stop losing these blue tokens. And maybe that was part of his reasoning as well. If I build this, then I get out of corruption and there's nothing else that he can build. But I think in this case, the disease is better than the cure. I don't want to invest in getting my happy faces online just to avoid some corruption. I would have preferred taking some yellow cards. And I don't know if there was a way to avoid corruption. This was 5 rocks, and he's exactly not corrupt here. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it is worth it. But something to consider here is you could take Statue of Liberty. The thing is that if you don't build an arena, you have 8 rocks plus 4, let's say your corrupt is 12. That does let you exactly build the statue next turn, and that fixes your issue with the food. Not only does it give you 2 culture per turn because you got this super early republic, but it also puts 3 tokens in here and you can start pulling them out. And in the short term, that also stops you from being corrupt. I would have preferred that. That would have been, for me, the lesser of 2 evils compared to doing the stuff with journalism. And if you are not taking, researching, and building team sports, like if we just discount his whole turn and say we have 7 actions, with 4 actions, I mean, you still have space left over. You could still take team sports for the future and a breakthrough, for example. Or you could look forward to Statue of Liberty and pair it with a frugality. After you build it, you can then, with frugality, actually get 2 workers out of your bank immediately. And, you kind of need workers to build some more army. So I think that he didn't pick the best long-term game plan here, and I was happy to see it. And we go over to Como. He plays an event. We get the Dark Ages, which really sucks. I mean, it hits everybody, so everybody's hurt, but it really sucks because it's going to delay when I can get my H2 government going. So I was sad to see this. Como grabs coal, researches it, upgrades, and he actually gets 2 upgrades thanks to his 2 rich lands. And now next turn he can get the selective breeding online really easily. So he's really fixing his economy here. If he hadn't wasted 3 actions putting this dumb thing under construction, who knows how much better he could be doing. He also upgrades a warrior, grabs breakthrough, because, that's generally the most valuable thing here, and then he passes the turn. So now I really had to think on my turn about what to do, because I need to fix my food. I have irrigation. I could just say, screw it, let's get selective breeding, which is better. Like, once these 3 workers are gone, irrigation sucks. There's also a third way, which is take the Ocean Liner service and cash out my Michelangelo benefit. Granted, it's not that much. It's just saving me 1 action. But, I do take it for 1 action less. I get a free rock. I can build it next turn. And with irrigation, Ocean Liner, your population problems are solved for the rest of the game. I thought the strength pressure from my opponents was not severe enough that I needed to worry about it. And also, Alfred Nobel did land here. Extra science is great. Extra strength is great. It's a great spot to take him. So I play an event. It's rebellion. Nothing happens. And I do it. I cash out the Ocean Liner with Michelangelo. I grab Nobel, toss Michelangelo to the wolves. And now I do need to stop being corrupt. I could have researched irrigation and upgraded a farm. And that would have stopped me from being corrupt. In fact, maybe that would have been the better thing to do. But if I use masonry and build 2 stages of the Ocean Liner, or frankly, even if I had built just 1 stage, but if I build into the Ocean Liner, that also gets me just out of corruption and leaves me with an action to spare compared to the irrigation upgrade game plan. And with that extra action, I can research the knights and make a horse and temporarily be the strongest player. Now, is that correct? I don't know. Maybe cannon would have been better than getting these knights down, because with the cannon, I'm available for all H2 tactics. But on the other hand, there are still 2 other copies of cannon. So I thought, short term, seems like people are really pushing for these strength events. Let's hope I get some goodies out of there. Also, the phalanx from Sun Tzu is beefed up, so it's a little bit better. It's a lot better than a legion. Legion is 2 strength, and the phalanx is 4. So I actually decided to cash out all of my H2 draws this turn to get that boost. I am threatening Hugh Dune, who doesn't know that I don't actually have any aggressions. And maybe, even someone like Antoine might feel some pressure because he only has 2 things. So if he doesn't have a single defense card here, which he very well might not since he's gotten so few draws, he might be worried that I would YOLO an aggression against him. And I thought maybe that was worth it. Looking back, I think I'd still rather just take the cannon here, but that's what I chose to do here. So I pass the turn, and it's over to how you doing. He takes cannon that I left behind for him, raises population, researches cannon, makes a cannon to get a little bit stronger, grabs a scientific method to fix his science later, and then he passes the turn. Antoine's up. He plays an event. We get the Wealthy Territory, which I would have taken for cheap, but How You Doing takes it again and goes down in strength. Antoine researches the journalism, this kind of inefficient move. He does put the Statue of Liberty under construction, so he appreciates the value of it for getting him out of this jam, but if he had taken it last turn, he could have had it finished this turn. He builds a stage, upgrades the library, which gives him 2 extra science, 1 for the upgrade and 1 for Leonardo, and then grabs the selective breeding and the urban growth. He manages to just be out of corruption, very nicely done, and it's over to Como, who plays an event. We get some free culture, I get the least of it. He makes an upgrade on his warriors, grabs the strategy to fix his military in the future, grabs architecture, and researches it immediately. This lets him build the wonder in 1 turn next time. I don't know if he's got the science to spare for this kind of thing, but he does have a government, so he doesn't need that big expenditure of science in H2 with an H2 government. And getting this down, I mean, it's going to have some value in the future. I personally think would have preferred just to get this last mine upgrade. It's also worth considering grabbing Bach here because 2 operas are coming down the line, and if one of them wheels, then Bach could be a very strong culture generator, and this is a problem that Comont needs to solve. He needs to figure out how he's going to make culture in the long term. Alright, so it's over to me. I play an event. We get a colony, which I would have taken, but Comont beats me over the tiebreak disadvantage. He spends an army and 2 defense cards to do it. Does he actually have an army? No, that wasn't an army. He doesn't have fighting band, but he loses his legion now, so he's temporarily a little bit vulnerable. And now it's my turn, so what do? Well, I cry over the fact that Bach and Opera are here, but I can't take them because I already took Nobel, so I get to do other things. One is, obviously, I'm gonna build the Ocean Liner, and the other is I want this government. If it weren't for Dark Ages, and maybe some slight inefficiency on my part, I could have researched it this turn, so tragically I have to wait. And what is there now to do with my other 2 actions? Well, I raise population for free with the Ocean Liner, grab the Organized Religion to fix my happy faces for both my actions, and pass the turn. This was not without some misgivings, because Opera is here, and I'm trying to fix this problem I have, which is that I don't take Opera when I have the chance, and then I don't have ways of generating culture in H3, and I fall behind and lose the game. So I really, really thought about taking Opera here, but these happy faces are going to be an issue right now. Like, these workers are coming out with the Ocean Liner, and I need to fix that problem. And yes, there is another copy of Organized Religion. And yes, both my opponents, my opponents will probably take the both copies of Opera. So I don't know. It's just like I got a problem. I got a problem. I'm just in and out of rehab, but I just cannot kick my addiction to not taking cultural buildings. So I just made this mistake, and I knew that I was probably making it, but I just could not bring myself to not take the happy face solution when it was already starting to become a problem. So I just did it. And I hoped against hope that somehow one of these operas would survive. All right, so Antoine could definitely use operas here. He's got tons of rocks. He's got just butt tons of rocks, and he needs a way to spend them to turn them into culture. So I thought he was going to take one of these operas. Or sorry, not Antoine, Hudun. So I thought for sure Hudun was going to do it. But maybe Hudun is worried about the strength problem and is just afraid of being behind on strength. So he makes another cannon, grabs his breakthrough for some science, and takes the rifles so he can really fix his military. And with cannons and rifles, he's ready for that defensive army tactic and a couple of tactic cards in Age 3, so he might be able to get away without using horses, perhaps, if he's lucky. All right, Antoine's up. Antoine's in a different situation. I thought now there was a really decent chance that one of these operas would wheel. Basically, the way that it wouldn't is if Antoine took horses and cook, causing an opera to land in the discard slot, and then Comont took the other opera. But I didn't think it was likely Antoine would take Cook here, who was obviously doing nothing for him. So it seemed pretty likely that I was going to get one of these, because Antoine already has the journalism, so the opera is less of a pressing issue for him. So he finishes the Statue of Liberty. He finally uses up these 3 blue tokens, gets a worker, grabs the rifles to fix his military, gets on that right away, makes a rifle. So, my little push here is influencing my opponents to do things that they might not want to do. He might have preferred, to take an opera maybe, or take some yellow cards or something. He does get 1, the rich land, for a selective breeding, and then he passes the turn. So yay, the opera is actually wheeled to me. I don't get punished for what may have been a mistake. Comont is up. He finishes the castle in a single action. He builds another sword to get his legion back, so now he's fippity fine on strength. He grabs the engineering genius, and then this is one of my favorite moments in this game. He takes horses and patriotism. And I'm not saying that this is wrong or anything, but I'm reminded of that scene in Pulp Fiction when the guy jumps out of the bathroom and shoots at Samuel Jackson and John Travolta 50,000 times and misses every shot because he hits just around them. That's just kind of what comes to mind when he's just taking every card around the opera, but not one of the operas themselves. I think you got to take opera here. I mean, you need a way to generate culture in H3. Yes, you're getting 6, and 6 is fine. And in the moment, 6 is really great. But in H3, you're going to need a way to generate culture. And this civilization has currently no options for generating culture. A heavy investment was made into the 6 science technology, making it easier to build these operas. You got these coal mines. I think you just got to do it here. Something, I don't know what, if it's the patriotism or the horses. I mean, the horses seem kind of important for military. But something absolutely needs to go for you to get one of these operas. In this game, we do have Chaplin and Ian. So no Marlene, but still we have 2 of the 3 opera leaders. I think that just makes it all the clearer that opera had to be taken here. All right, so it is my turn. I play an event. It's rats, which does not hit that hard this turn with the ocean liner. I don't really care about the rats. The irrigation is not really for making food. It's just for paying the consumption costs when you have ocean liner. Because once you get to here, you're in famine if you don't have irrigation. So I finally get the constitutional monarchy down. I research irrigation. I upgrade a farm. I grab the opera because holy crap, I can't believe both operas are here. And I'm so happy the other one's falling away. I also grabbed the reserves because I got tons of actions now thanks to Coda Laws and finally getting an H2 government, and I am happy to use 2 actions to get 3 rocks. Now, what to do with my last couple of actions here? Well, notice this Organized Religion is here, so I could have taken Opera last time and the Organized Religion would have come here, though of course I wouldn't have known that. It wasn't, I don't think, in the row yet. I upgrade the other farm just because I gotta do something, and I just play these reserves from age 1 because I need to play them soon, and this is kind of a good time to do it. There's nothing else that I need. So I was really happy with this turn, and I passed things over to Hudun. Hudun grabs the horses, so now all tactics are online for Hudun, and he's got tons of rocks. But the good news is that when he was bullied earlier by the event deck, he lost a farm. So he's not generating very much food. This is only 4 food per turn. It's kind of like a normal person having 2 irrigation. We're about to lose 2 yellow tokens, so he's got 3 yellow tokens left, and then he's gonna be all dried up. So it might be difficult for him to fund an army. Hudun kind of played this inefficiently. There's now not really a way for him to turn these rocks into points. This is one of those times where I would say, you know what, actually, yeah, build the Eiffel Tower, just because like you need a way to get more points and you need a way to spend these rocks. Even though it's the end of H2, and normally I would criticize that play. But in this case, he does not do that. He researches the horses, disbands a warrior, makes a horse. He could still take the Eiffel Tower here. After getting the mobile artillery and actually becoming the strength leader, he grabs the Republic and Robespierre. Now, that's fine. This is obviously a very good combination. And if you take the Eiffel Tower, then you can't do that. But in his shoes, I think he started the turn at like 11 strength or something. That's not enough to be worried. One thing to have considered here would have been to take Robespierre, take the Republic. That was what, 3 actions? You replace Joan with Robespierre, and then you revolt into the Republic. So that means that you had essentially 8 actions that turn. You've just spent 3 of them. Yes, you're not doing all the military stuff because that costs all your military actions, but then with your remaining actions, you can take the Eiffel Tower. And again, normally I wouldn't do that, but you really have just a ludicrous amount of rocks that need to get spent, and you don't have operas or any way to turn the rocks into points. So being able to get 4 culture per turn and a happy face with all your rocks, I mean, that's one of the best things you can hope for. So I do think that Hudun missed it here. Getting this, even if there is some strength-based event or something that he put in here and becoming the strength leader, I don't think is as important as getting your culture fixed and also getting this down this turn so you have an extra turn's worth of those juicy 7 actions. Well, then it's Antoine's turn. Antoine plays an event. We get the wealthy territory. I will take a stab at it, but I lose to both Antoine and Hudun on tie breaks, and just not on tie breaks. So Hudun gets these rocks, which is weird because he already had too many rocks. This is now just, I mean, it's impressive, but it's not good gameplay. You're not getting any value from having 34 goddamn rocks here at the end of H2. It's one of the highest rock counts I've ever seen. And yes, you are getting the blue tokens to be able to store them up, so that's cool. But I don't think this is worth it. I think you should have just let that one go and, not had to rebuild a military in the future. Maybe Hudun just, bid it. I mean, he has, what did he do? Did he spend a defense? No, he spent 2 units. I would have bid 1 with the cartography, just in case, no one takes it or something, but I would definitely have not spent 2 units to win that colony. All right, so Antoine continues his turn, grabs navigation, researches it. My opponent seemed to really like the colony games. He builds another lab, so he's doing great on culture, grabs the efficient upgrade for his eventual selective breeding, and takes the organized religion to fix his happy faces. This is, I think, a mistake. You already did this team sports thing. Your happy faces are fine. You don't need more happy faces. I think he, honestly, if I had to guess, I think he just stone cold messed up. I mean, sometimes you're squeezing in a move late at night, or you got kids running around you, and you just do something kind of dumb. I think this is just a blunder that if he looks back, he's like, oh crap, why did I do that? I already have team sports. So the reserves here would have been the clear pick for the last action because you got a ton of actions and more resources is great. At this point, he's going to get 1 food. These 2 workers disappear when the age turns over, but with the reserves, he can play it for 3 food and get another worker out. I think that's a pretty good thing to do. All right, so Caumont is up, plays an event. It's Call to Arms, which is nice because If Hugh still had his army, then the weakest players would have been me and Antoine, because Comal still has Nostradamus, and he would be breaking ties against two opponents. But as it is, because Hugh got that colony, he's the weakest. Antoine's the second weakest on tie breaks, and then I was the third weakest. So I got very lucky here that Hugh made that mistake, I think, getting that colony. Comal researches strategy just in time because Nostradamus is about to leave. He gets a bit unlucky here at the end of the deck. There's two leaders, but those two leaders are the last two cards of the deck. So he's going to have a hole here and not be able to replace his leader during the age. He puts the railroad under construction, and you know what I'm going to say about that? I don't like this. This is the end of age 2. Yes, you have architecture to help you build it, but it's just really, really late for this wonder. And this is better if you have iron, and then can upgrade iron to oil if there's an early oil for huge rock production. But with coal, like, yes, coal is good with the wonder, but you already have great rock production. Just, upgrade your last coal mine and then go do other things. I don't think this is actually worth it in his case. He's not exactly swimming in rocks that he needs to do this. And that's his whole turn. So that's that for Comal. And I forgot to do this at the end of age 1. Let's go ahead and do this kind of near the beginning of age 3. Take a look at where people stand. So I like my position a lot. I am fine with food because I have Ocean Liner. I'm doing the best on actions. I'm tied for the most in both types. I have a happy face solution with the organized religion. I'm behind on rocks compared to the people, but I do have a little bit of a stockpile and enough actions to take yellow cards if needed. Doing great on science. My main problem is culture, but I did it! I cured my problem. I actually took opera when I had the chance. So I just need to make operas, hope the opera leader comes out early, and then maybe I can win on culture. That was my game plan. I'm not going crazy for military stuff. I just basically want to do the minimum to keep up with my opponents and not get blasted by a war. And otherwise, I'm just focused on getting culture. I do think in this case, I put myself as the favorite to win, even though I'm behind on culture currently. Maybe that is a bit outlandish. My opponents all have some issues, but I think the one with the fewest issues is Antoine. He has a really big culture lead. He's generating a lot of culture. His happy faces are fixed. His problem is he has everything fine with rocks and science, and he's got the selective breeding to fix his food imminently. But I think his big problem is the military actions. If military theory, there's 2 copies of it in a 4-player game, but if they're both late in the deck, he's going to have a real issue either like doing war on anybody or keeping up if other people get militarily ahead. So that's, I think, a pretty big weakness and why I think I would put myself as the favorite here, perhaps somewhat unrealistically optimistically. And then Comal also doing fine on culture, but he's got this monkey on his back with the Transcontinental Railroad. He only has 5 civil actions. He has no way of generating culture because he passed on the opera. I think maybe if he had taken the opera, I might consider him a favorite here, just because then he could get selective breeding down, get these workers out of his bank relatively quickly, and start building some operas for culture. Though he does also need to fix his military at some point with just a legion at the moment. Okay, let's take a look at my turn. I play an event. I am currently the strength leader. It's the Crusades. On tie breaks against 2 other people with the same strength as me, I win it, which is kind of nice. Hugh gets beat up some more. And now what to do? Well, earlier I didn't take cannon because there's 3 copies in the deck, and they were like near the bottom of the deck. But I definitely need to do that this turn. I take the opera. I build one. I get a free worker. I take the revolutionary idea because I do need science for military theory and or airplanes. My tactic is a bit of a lower end tactic, even with Sun Tzu's bonus. I grab the cannon because I'm not a crazy person, and I take the wave. You could take resources here. It's more flexible, but I thought with the way things are looking here, it's really likely I'm going to get 6 rocks out of this, and then I can make a cannon. And even if I only get 4 rocks, I mean, that's still better than reserves for rocks, and it's not likely I'm going to want reserves for food when I have the Ocean Liner. So that was my turn. Pretty happy with it. I get a war, though I'm not necessarily planning to use it, and it's over to Hugh. So he plays Robespierre and does the Revolution into Republic now. He raises population, builds a 3rd lab, because why the hell not? Notice there's nothing, just absolutely nothing for him here to do his rocks on, though impressively, he's only corrupt for 2 with 31 rocks. Grabs some science because he needs it, and passes the turn. I think that's a very reasonable turn. Antoine plays an event. We get the vast territory, which I took a pretty serious stab at here. But, I mean, I'm up against a cartography and a navigation. And while Hugh passes, probably wisely, Antoine does just beat me on tie breaks and just spends a single warrior and a defense card to get this huge colony, which is a big swing in his favor. That is a massive deal. It means he doesn't need to do the selective breeding yet, and he can focus on just generating culture for a little while longer still. So he raises his population now that his yellow bank has just been filled up to the gorge, rebuilds the rifleman, so now he's ahead on strength, researches selective breeding, upgrades once, grabs Catherine and plays her. I was really torn on this. Catherine is generating 2 culture per turn. They both give a military action, her and Napoleon. And this is threatening now to steal a yellow token from your opponents. So there's a lot of value to Catherine. I think I would have rather had 4 strength here, though, because the pressure from that, going up to 20 versus like 14, 14, 12, that could scare your opponents, and we're all kind of having a hard time fixing our militaries. No workers here, no ability to get a better tactic here, and you're okay, but you can't get any more workers, and this is all you got. And you're the lowest at the moment. So I would have preferred the strength over the culture since I'm the culture leader. Now, if I was desperate for culture, then yes, take Catherine. But as it is, you've got enough yellow tokens, so yes, it's threatening to your opponents to steal one, but I would rather just threaten your opponents, period, rather than only threaten them with 4 strength less to maybe steal a yellow token. So I was happy to see him take Catherine over Napoleon, for my part. Caumont is up, plays an event. It's emigration. I do lose a population, but I have ocean liner, so it's actually not that big of a deal. And I was really happy here. An early military theory came up, and neither Hudun nor Antoine took it, and Caumont doesn't want it because he already has strategy. Now, Caumont gets Napoleon, which I was not happy about, but it does take 3 of his 5 actions, so he just gets, and he only gets 2 strength from it, not 4 at the moment. He finishes the Transcontinental Railroad for another 5, which is admittedly a little bit scary, and then he passes the turn. So that's how Caumont gets out of the way of Catherine. Now it's up to me to do it, but I got the military theory, and that's another thing, is Antoine knew that Caumont was going to take Napoleon and build the Transcontinental Railroad. That was pretty obvious. He also knew that the military theory that he wasn't taking in the 3rd row was going to be in the 2nd row for me, at least. And so I would be able to get out of Catherine's way that way very easily also. So I just think that there wasn't enough of a chance of this going off that it was worth sacrificing 4 strength. And remember, if it's you or another opponent taking Napoleon, like when it's that kind of rare situation where both of you don't have an H2 leader and you know that if you don't take Napoleon, someone else will, you're losing a lot of strength against that person. Either you're 4 ahead of them or they get 4 ahead of you. That's an 8 strength swing against one opponent and 4 strength against everyone else. That's a lot to give up. So I play an event because I'm still ahead of Hudun. And I'm happy that I am, because there's refugees. I would have liked to win this, of course. After this turn, I'll be the strongest temporarily. So it's sad that I don't get it, but I was fine. I mean, you can't have every event go your way, and I'm just happy not to get hit by this. That would have kind of been annoying, since I'm already losing an event, a worker to the emigration. So I get my worker back, and now what to do? Well, we got to take the military theory. I use this revolutionary idea that I paid a lot for to just be able to get it, and there I am at 19 strength. What next? Well, I don't have any more science, so I can't research more stuff. There's some tempting yellow cards here, and there's also Ian Fleming, and I really thought a lot about taking him, but the problem is that he is just 2 culture at the moment. There's no guarantee I'm going to get a multimedia anytime soon. I don't see them here. I just really wanted to take him super badly, but I just could not justify it. So what I did was I built another theater just for 3 culture. I grabbed the efficient upgrade and I took the urban growth, and at this point I was pretty much okay with letting him slide off the deck. It kind of stinks that now the only other opera leader is Chaplin, who might be further back in the deck, but then again, Chaplin is good. I get 2 happy faces from Chaplin, so maybe I don't need to do organized religion if I get Chaplin if he happens to come up sooner. If Ian Fleming falls off or gets taken by an opponent and Chaplin is late in the deck, then it's a little bit awkward. What am I hoping for from a leader? Maybe Churchill, just for 3 culture per turn. Sid Meier's not great unless computers come out. Marie's not great unless computers come out. Both of my labs and mines are age 1, so Marie's really, really not great here. And I don't want to commit to Gandhi, obviously. So yeah, it's tough. It's really tough not taking Ian here. Note that Hollywood is in the game and internet, and both of those are really good with Ian. So it's possible I made a mistake and I just needed to suck it up. And instead of getting, like 7 rocks here or building another opera or something, I should have just taken Ian on this turn. That was a really hard turn for me. I struggled with it a lot, and it was hard to watch this guy go off. So Hudun plays scientific method, starts fixing his science. I mean, it was great for him to be able to use up his rocks. He still has a butt ton of rocks, but he fixed up his science, which is nice. He also can now take Sid Meier, and to be honest, I don't know why he doesn't. I mean, he's got 6 culture per turn here, and he's the culture loser. You got to just take Sid Meier here. Yes, maybe he was afraid of the airplanes, maybe he was afraid of military stuff, and that is a fair consideration. There is a Napoleon here, but Napoleon needs a little bit of work before his tactics come online. He doesn't have any workers is the thing, and gutting your labs this early hits hard. So because Napoleon has just been so slow to get that selective breeding, really dragging his feet on that, I think you can just wait and just see, okay, if both air forces get taken, fine. It sucks that you have to just kind of like build raw troops and just do it that way and you never get a multiplier. But I would have taken Sid Meier here and taken my chances. He plays Revolutionary Idea, grabs Architecture, and passes the turn. Antoine plays an event. Catherine was thwarted, and I was very happy to see the Cold War. I get 6 science out of it, which is a huge deal for me. Antoine grabs an Air Force, upgrades that other selective breeding, raises population, and he goes for the Empire State Building. I think this ends up being kind of underwhelming, but I think in his position I might have done the same thing. The thing is that you're in the lead on culture, so there's this temptation to say, well, let's just try to push it. Let's just try to, sneak in an Empire State Building. Sneak it in when I have a lead on a couple of things, maybe even 3 or something. Get those points and try to put the game out of the way. Looking back, I think I would have made this move as well, but I think it would have been a mistake for me, and I think it ends up being a mistake for Antoine as well. I think maybe taking Ian here makes sense. Granted, it's a little bit tricky to take him, because the movies are here, but if someone else takes movies, then, Ian's just 2 culture per turn, plus looking at your opponent's tactics, or military cards. So you kind of have to commit and spend 4 actions, but you'll notice that he spent 4 actions doing other stuff, so he'd have to let go of something. Either not upgrading his other farm, or not raising population. And then there's this threat of maybe being corrupt. So you might have to accept some corruption or not take the movies and just risk it. But that, I think, would have been a better way of trying to put the game away on culture, more so than the Empire State Building. He builds another knight. He's not actually threatening anything with Catherine at this point, so she's really being underwhelming, other than, of course, the culture. And then we go over to Napoleon. So Kamal plays an event. We get freedom of movement. He uses it to just upgrade his last coal mine, so it's actually pretty good for him. It's just a free action, and he needed it. He researches the horses, plays the patriotism, builds a horse, gets this Sun Tzu tactic. We went all of Age 2 with just a single Age 2 tactic being played, and then everyone else is just rocking these phalanxes, which is crazy. He then researches the selective breeding finally and starts upgrading his food. And then he grabs the modern infantry. Now, the craziest thing happened. Ian actually wheeled over to me, which is not something I could have counted on, and it was a mistake of me to try to count on it, but I do get outrageously lucky that nobody took Ian and that multimedia showed up. Now, it is important if you're in this situation. Okay, I play an event. We get the iconoclasm. I'm actually happy about this, by the way, because my opponent's leaders are all kind of good, and mine, I don't want to replace him. I don't want the thing of the Nobel Prizes, since I'm not really doing that much science. I don't want my opponents to have the option of getting 4 culture per turn by researching 2 technologies in the same turn, if I am not going to be availing myself of that anytime soon. I don't think I played this, but that was really great for me. So I take Ian, I play him into an empty spot, but again, Alfred Nobel does not give an action back when replaced, so that isn't a loss for me either, and then I take the multimedia. So now I got a clear plan: survive on military, just survive, and get 5 culture per turn with Ian, plus of course the culture from the buildings. Did I use freedom of movement? Oh yeah, I moved an alchemy onto opera for 2 rocks, which is very, very, very greedy. But one thing I noticed is that I've been making this mistake of just undervaluing how much you can come behind on culture if you really push for it in Age 3. I keep getting in these situations where I'm like, well, I'm kind of behind on culture and my opponents make more culture than me, so I can't catch up, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go all in on military, and it doesn't work, and then I lose. So here I was like, no, I'm behind on culture, but I actually think that with the right setup, I can catch up here, and I go for it. I build a multimedia right now, so I'm like, all right, bitches, come at me. I have a worker every turn, I got 8 military actions, and I got some rocks in hand, try to make something happen, ya dingbats. I just decided to be a total greed bag. I raised population with Ocean Liner, and then my last action's kind of worthless. I would have loved urban growth or reserves, especially the reserves, but I just didn't have enough actions for that, so I play the reserves I have to get it for rocks. It's obviously going to be rocks in the end. I'm not corrupt with it, so it was a good way to use my last action. Oh, actually, I built another knight. Okay, cool. So I do that. I'm now 1 sword away from a phalanx, number 2 for another 4 strength, and then we go over to Hudun. Hudun and Antoine get into a military alliance, which of course I'm not thrilled to see. He raises population, grabs the movies. Okay, that's smart. You need a way to get culture. Researches the movies, builds 1. He turned a mine into a cannon with freedom of movement, which is smart. You just got way too many rocks, got to use them up. Though it's worth considering getting another farm so you can get these workers out faster. He grabs Sid for 6 culture per turn, so that wheeled around for him. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he was right to just count on it to wheel since no one else really wanted it. Now he's getting lots of culture, gets a couple extra things, and I was fine with it. He's still making less than me, and he also was the culture loser going into age 3. So of all the people who could have 11 culture per turn, he's the one I'm least worried about. So I'm fine with it. He does have 8 civil actions now, but he does no military actions. So it's going to be hard for him to do any kind of warring. So I was feeling really good about my position at this point. Antoine plays an event. It's this, which is a nothing burger. He grabs the engineering. Everybody loves these architecture texts today. Researches it, raises population, builds a library here, raises population again, builds another rifle, getting his second phalanx and getting a pretty nice strength lead, but he can't declare any war other than a hybrid war, which there's only 1 copy of, so it's not that threatening, and there are some aggressions that cost 3 actions that he can't even play. So it's not really that scary. You need to fix your military actions by age 3, or else it limits your gameplay quite a lot. It was even worth considering getting fundamentalism instead of getting engineering, because that would have fixed his military actions and given him 6 strength, and yes, he would have lost a couple of signs doing it, but it would have put some actual pressure on his opponents. I don't know if that's the right play, but I think it was definitely worth considering here to protect your culture lead. Caumont is up. He goes for it against Hudun, but Hudun does have 2 defense cards with his 2 military actions to block the plunder. We get a modern infantry, just some raw strength increases. That's a total of 6 extra strength. Grabs this revolutionary idea because he does need the science and the rockets. And now he's ready to go for any tactic. So that could be scary, but I guess I was a bit lucky this game. All my opponents were inefficient in different ways, and the inefficiencies were just perfectly balanced around that it never felt that threatening, even though I was the strength loser. So Caumont has military actions, access to any and all tactics, but only 5 civil actions, and that's a really significant limitation because you need actions to make workers. And that's a really big deal when you're trying to go for military. Just taking the action to make a worker limits what you can do. And sometimes when you're in a situation and you're like counting like how much could my opponent get, if they have a lot of civil actions, it actually causes massive problems because you're like, well, they could essentially get as many workers as they want. Whereas when they only have 5, it's like, okay, they could take airplanes for 2, research it for 2, raise population for 2, and they only have 2 workers to work with, and it makes it a lot easier to calculate what they can accomplish. Meanwhile, Hudun and Antoine only have 2 military actions, so I'm not really scared of them either. Alright, so on my turn, I play an action. I play a card that's the Impact of Happiness. We get this, so Hudun has to lose a colony. It's just losing a few blue tokens. It's not the end of the world. I grab the modern infantry. I think it's important just to have the raw strength option. Don't forget about this. This is a mistake I made for a long time as a Through the Ages player, is when I would think about raising my strength, I would only think about it in terms of like making a new tactic, or switching to a better tactic, but you can also raise your strength just by raw increases. Like these 3 swords turning into modern infantry gives me 9 strength. That's actually a lot of strength. It's worth doing, and especially since I have the culture gain and the science discount from the Colosseum. I research it right away. I play the wave for only 4 rocks, which is a bit sad, but still, I make this modern infantry, and that gives me 5 plus 4, which is 9 from another phalanx. So yes, it's a crappy tactic and it's not great long term, but hey, you know what? It gives me a way in the short term, and this is fine. I don't need to be the strength leader here. I'm doing my culture thing, so I'm just totally happy to have this option. I upgrade another swordsman for good measure. I grab military buildup for some more rocks in the future and patriotism, so this makes it really difficult for my opponents to declare a hybrid war on me. Even if they could do it and play military theory in the same turn and then still have 3 military actions left to war with, it's still difficult for them to plan a war against me when I have this much strength, which is comparable to theirs, and a bunch of rocks in hand and civil actions, making it super difficult to calculate what I could possibly accomplish with my turn for my strength. Alright, we go over to how you doing, and he's not doing great. He raises population, makes another horse, though with 2 tactics, he's still not really competing with the phalanx people just because he has so many fewer workers. He has 4 workers in his army versus me, who has 6, and Antoine, who has 6. So even though we're operating with a worse tactic, it's beefed up by Sun Tzu a little bit, and with the 2 extra workers there, we're basically on par with Hudun. In fact, he's technically a little bit behind. He grabs the computers. I don't know why. It doesn't really... I mean, yes, it does give a little bit of extra culture with Sid, but it's very, very marginal. I guess it's a way to spend some rocks. He grabs efficient upgrade, upgrades another lab, and passes the turn. It's worth considering here with all these rocks to get multimedia, just to have another way of generating culture, but I can see why he might not have wanted to do that. He doesn't have any workers. That farm he lost from the Reign of Terror back in the day really hamstrung him the whole game. Antoine goes for a plunder on Hudun and it works, so even if I weren't Ian and able to peek at his cards, I would know for sure that I could get this off, because of course with a 5 strength different it went through, and Yeah, if he had the defense, he would have stopped a plunder. So Hudun's about to get bullied over here. So our computer geek leader here is going to get stuffed into the lockers by the high school terrorizers. Antoine uses that cash out to build another lab, grabs a civil service, which he has a gap in for a bunch of civil actions, takes the Churchill for the 3 culture per turn, raises population a couple times to get out of corruption, and then he takes the multimedia, which is very, very inefficient, of course. You had all 3 libraries, and when you're doing that, you know that you have not played with the utmost efficiency. Caumont is up. He goes for Hudun because he knows that it will work because Antoine YOLO'd it, and it worked when he did it, so he steals 7 culture from Hudun, grabs Marie, plays her. This is 2 science, 1 strength, and 2 culture per turn. Perfectly fine for a leader, and he's got nothing in the leader slot at the moment, so it makes sense to go for it. Raises population, builds another knight, gets the classic army, which I was honestly happy to see, not just because I might be able to copy it, but because with the rockets I was worried he would have a modern army, but at the moment it looks like that's not the direction he's heading. He grabs the rocks, and then he passes the turn. Now this turn I really agonized over what to do. So I am the culture leader on generation, but Antoine at 12 and Caumont at 8, they're making a decent amount. I will catch up to them, but it's going to be narrow. I'm going to need something to push me over the edge, and I'm really relying on inefficiencies in their game. I'm not playing an amazing game myself here, I should be honest. They have tons of rocks. They're just not able to convert them into culture, and that's only going to work for so long. I need to somehow use my advantage, or I need to somehow generate like a big culture advantage to get ahead of them. So what I want is Hollywood. Hollywood, if I can make another multimedia, is going to be essentially 40 points. But internet is here, and that's going to be like 29 or 30 points, depending on if I can make another random temple or something. So do I take the internet here and give up 10 points, not waiting for Hollywood? I really, really agonized over this, and ultimately I decided I have to take the internet here because there's a chance that Antoine grabs Hollywood. There's a chance that Hudun grabs Hollywood, even though they're not great for either one of them. They're not dummies. They're going to know that I have frickin' Ian Fleming here with the 5 extra culture on my stuff, and that Hollywood is just ludicrously good. So I decided to take the internet here. As we'll see, it ends up being a little bit odd, but I think it was the correct play, regardless of what happens later, to take the internet here while you have the chance. I pull off a raid against Hudun, which I looked at his cards just to be sure, and yes, he did not have any defense cards, so I get a ludicrous 10 rocks from him, which definitely helps, and I'm only making 6 rocks per turn. It is very nice that Hudun was here for me to bully. If not, I may have had a harder time putting away this game. So now, can I afford to make another multimedia? It's super greedy. I really thought about this a lot, and I realized I'm just too conservative when it comes to culture. I think you gotta make a multimedia here. Like, yes, it's a little bit greedy to make it, but I think you're safe. Like, I just don't think anyone can pull off a credible war against you, so I did it. I researched the organized religion, efficiently upgraded to fix my happy faces, and I made another multimedia. Even though it meant not taking air forces, I think that was the correct play. I grabbed the reserves, which I had some misgivings about. I do want these tanks a lot to get the hardcore upgrade, or the raw upgrade of my knights. But the thing is that I think the reserves are really important. I need now to build the internet. I'm currently 2 rocks short, and if Hudun and Antoine do decide to do some crazy nonsense and end the game, I'm not going to get to finish this. And I wasn't 100% sure that I would win the game without the internet boost. Maybe I would have, but I felt like I had to take the reserves and just take my chances with the military, because I looked and I looked and I looked, and I just did not see how any of my opponents, no matter what tactics they had or what they did, could actually pull off a war big enough against me that it would, like, swing the tide of the game. Even if Caumont did a war, took the airplanes, revolutionary idea, made an airplane, got an extra 13 strength, like, even then, I could still get enough military buildup that, yes, I would lose some culture to him, but I would be okay. Like, I would still be fine, and I would make it up. I believed. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe if Caumont had drawn a war here, he could have done something really strong with it, but as it is, it's what I went for. Trying to fix my past mistakes of not pushing culture hard enough, and then I pass the turn over to Hudun. So Hudun gets the air forces, makes one for a little bit of strength boost, so now he cannot be bullied anymore, grabs the pro sports to fix his happy faces, and some rocks, plays the endowment for 6 culture, grabs some science. He's very far behind here, so he's in some serious trouble. And we go over to Antoine. No hybrid war from him. He grabs military theory, makes the multimedia, he got all the libraries this game, spends some of these rocks to get these upgrades, grabs engineering genius, and because he is going to build an Empire State Building, don't forget that is here, makes another knight, makes another knight. He's ready to copy a classic army next turn for an extra 8 strength, and then raise his population to finish up the turn. So just to take a quick look at it here, if Caumont did have a war over culture, what can he do? Well, it's 1 action to take air forces, 1 action to play revolutionary idea, 1 action to research it. That's 3 of his 5 actions. And then he could get 2 workers with his last 2 actions. So let's say he blows up both labs or blows up a lab and a farm. He can then make 2 airplanes, let's say. So that's 5 plus 5 is 10, plus another 8 is 18, and he goes up to 54. So what can I do on my turn? Well, let's assume that Caumont is not going to take these tanks. I can get the tanks, and with the military buildup and the patriotism, I can just raw dog up all these swordsmen and horses into tanks and modern infantry. Each one gives me 3 strength. 3 times 4 is 12, so it's not that impressive. It's 12. I go up to 43. He got 18. He's at 54. So 54 versus 43, it's 11. I might be off by 1 or 2, but 11 plus 5 is 16. So he gets 30 points ahead of me and 16 ahead of his opponents. So he could definitely do that if he had the war. Maybe he never drew a war. But I figured, like, if he gets 30 points ahead of me, I'm fine with it. I am getting an extra 13 points ahead of him every single turn that goes by, and there's going to be 2 turns of culture production left. I'm also going to build an internet for around 30 points. So he wipes out my internet, but I'm then just going to beat him on the raw culture generation. So I feel like I was correct, and I could be wrong, in just setting up a big shadow army and just going greedy with these multimedias. There's also a chance, being a human, he goes, well, maybe I can't beat Boristina. Maybe there's nothing I can do. So then he just decides to cash out and go for 2nd place, let's say, and attack Hudun or Antoine. Both of whom are really strapped. Now, he can get military theory. Okay, so maybe you go after Hudun. What can he do? There's not a whole lot. He can get 10 strength from the airplane and then maybe just like gut something and get another 5. But it's difficult for him. He's out of workers to gut here, and the next worker he's making is not a happy one. So maybe he would have chosen to just go for someone who had fewer military actions and could maybe do less stuff. So that's what I was thinking here. And it turns out he doesn't have a war or doesn't play a war. He just takes the movies, upgrades this final selective breeding a little late, researches a movie, grabs airplanes, and then just passes the turn. He has a lot of rocks. You can see this was inefficient. Whenever someone has a bunch of rocks and can't spend them to make culture, you know that something was off about the way that the game went for them. On my turn, there's the Hollywood for 1 action right in front of me. So it's kind of funny. If I had not taken it in, I would have gotten a bigger Hollywood. And of course, it's a real feather in your cap to pull off a 40-point Hollywood in a tournament game. But I still think it was correct to take internet. Someone could have taken Hollywood. Maybe they didn't take it because I had the internet, and they would have hate drafted it if I hadn't taken it. So I think it was still the correct thing to do. So on my turn, I play the reserves. This is not my last turn. I still have another turn after this. I grab the reserves. I grab the tanks. I research the tanks. I play the military buildup. I am now the weakest by a hair, but now I have 9 rocks. I get some upgrades just to get ahead. There is a politics of strength in here, so I thought this is worth it. I get a couple of culture. I might get 5 culture from the politics instead of losing 3, so I thought it was worth it. There were definitely other things I could have done with my rocks and time besides upgrading those tanks, but that's what I went for. I also take the classic army, so if needed, I can make 2 more tanks. This is mostly just in case, it doesn't actually matter. I could have even switched to classic army last turn. I think I should have. I think I missed that. 2 phalanxes is the same as 1 classic army when the phalanx has been boosted by Sun Tzu. But I wanted to do this anyway so that if Hudun or Antoine wanted to do a hybrid war against me, then I could make 2 more tanks and get another classic army, and that would discourage them from targeting me. I actually make another tank. I'm still not sure if that's the correct thing to do, but I go for it, and it's over to Hudun. I see if he's going to play an event. He does not. He gets the pro sports, fixes happy faces. These are pretty irrelevant turns at this point. Gets another lab back, gets democracy, which he'll get next time for some extra culture, but he's very behind here on the culture front, so I don't think it was going to matter too much. Antoine also gets the classic army, gets the military theory, makes a farm, gets some rocks, and this is kind of a tricky move he does. He builds a farm, not because he needs the food, but to give himself another category that he's highest on. So he gets 18 points from the Empire State Building, and then he promptly blows up the farmer. When I was reviewing this game, I was like, wait, how did he get 18? How did he get 18 points from the Empire State? He's tight on food. Komon also has 2 selective breedings. There's a bug in the game. But yeah, it's because he built a farm and blew it up. So you have to actually watch the log to figure out what happened there. Grab some mechanized agriculture and computers, which is pretty irrelevant. All this stuff doesn't really matter anymore. And then he passes the turn. He could have hate drafted Hollywood, if needed with this turn. Calmont takes a page out of Antoine's book and offers a goofy pact. He offers international tourism to Hudun, which actually makes a lot of sense. It's a good play. This is a move you can learn from. So Calmont is giving Hudun 4 culture, and Hudun gets only 2 culture over to Calmont. So why would you do this when you're falling behind your opponent? Well, it's because Hudun is so far behind that it's irrelevant that Hudun is catching up 2 points against you. But of course, it is relevant that you're getting 4 points versus your other opponent. So it was a smart play to make, given that he didn't have an event. I was still happy to see it. I'd rather him go up 2 points against me than like a whole bunch from a good event to play. He builds a movie, plays Revolutionary Idea, gets the airplanes down, blows up a lab, makes it so now I'm not going to win the Politics of Strength, unfortunately. And then that's his last turn of the game. I bully Hudun. I could see his cards, and I knew he didn't have a defense card, so I steal 7 more culture from him. I blow up a mine. I play the reserves, and then with the 20 rocks and the patriotism, I can upgrade a sword just kind of for the hell of it, build a temple, which is a point now and also an extra point for internet, because remember, internet is is a point for all the culture and science your buildings make, including your stupid temples. And then with masonry MVP that I spent 2 actions for way back in the day, I can make this 5-stage internet in 3 actions and get a very nice 30 points. I'm very happy with a 30-point wonder in a tournament 4-player game, so that was great. And then it's over to Hudun. So Hudun gets the democracy down, does some stuff, it doesn't really matter that much. And then we go over to Antoine. Antoine also does a bit of bullying on Hudun. He's the pincushion of this game. Makes another arena, raises population, gets a computer, uses efficient upgrade from a basic lab to get that computer. Doesn't really matter. And then he passes the turn. So going into the final scoring, I won this game. I was interested to see if anyone was going to pull off some Event King action, because there's a really big jump. There's like at least a 30-point spread between all of the places, which is actually in its own way kind of unusual. So I was curious, would there be some big swing, or would this order change? So Impact of Happiness is the best for me. Doesn't change anything about the order in a major way. Impact of Culture, I put that in. That was the best for me. Doesn't change anything in a major way. Impact of Strength. Even though I tried, I couldn't really win that one. Doesn't change anything. And Impact of Competition. Kind of a nothing burger. Everyone's just about the same on that one. And it doesn't change anything. So it never changed. And there's still at least a 30-point margin between any 2 players. In fact, is that at least a 40-point? Yeah, there's at least a 40-point gap between any 2 places. No, I can't do math. That's 32. Okay, there's at least a 30-point gap between any 2 spots, which is something I don't see very often, but a very polarized game. I actually curiously got 256 points in both of my 4-player games in this stage, and I won them both. And if you're curious, you can stick around. I'll show you the standings, but this is over. Have a lovely day. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Now, if you want to stick around for bonus time, let's peek at the standings. All right, so here's where we're at after the 4-player games. I won them both, so I'm in a pretty big lead. This means if I can win a couple of the 3-player games, which, okay, there's 3 of them, so winning a couple is kind of a tall ask, but I am ahead of my opponents on ratings, so it feels weird or arrogant to say it, but I am, or I should be, the favorite. So if I can win a couple of these, that puts me in a really good position where I basically have to win like only 1 2-player game to win the group. So I think, I'm feeling very fortunate and happy with where things landed, obviously, and I have a good shot of making it to stage 4. One thing you look for if you do happen to win both 4-player games is, did the same player come in second? And the answer is no. So Coman came in second once and third once, so the points are split. There isn't somebody nipping at your heels with 6 points. But Hudun ended up being the big loser. Part of that is my own choices. I could have changed Coman and not have him be second in the first game, though I don't regret it. I think it's fine the way it ended up. It's still split. So as long as I don't bomb the 3-player games and like 1 player does amazing in the 3-player games, I have a good chance of making it to stage 4. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. The 3-player games are starting soon, but it will be a while before I post videos on it because they need to play out. They need to start, they need to play out, and then I need to have time to make the video. So it'll be a little while. Enjoy your gaming until then. Take care.